Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Alright guys, buckle up because today's story out of Miami is a wild one, full of tension, speculation, and that familiar mix of frustration and hope that seems to follow the Dolphins everywhere they go. We're talking about Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback who has spent his entire NFL career under the microscope, and once again, all eyes are on him. Despite a rough outing and some serious noise about his future, head coach Mike McDaniel made it crystal clear to reporters, Tua is still their guy. Yeah, you heard that right. The Dolphins are sticking with Tua Tagovailoa as their starting quarterback moving forward. And depending on which side of the fence you're on, that statement either makes you breathe a sigh of relief or makes you roll your eyes hard enough to see last season flash before them. So, let's rewind a bit and paint the picture. Week 7, Dolphins versus Browns, a game that was supposed to be a get-right opportunity for Miami after a rocky start to the season. Instead, it turned into a full-blown disaster. The Dolphins got blown out 31-6, and by the fourth quarter, things were ugly enough that McDaniel decided to pull Tua out of the game. Now, the official explanation was that it was to protect his health in a game that was already lost, which makes sense. You don't want your franchise quarterback taking unnecessary hits when you're down by 4 scores. But let's be real. When your starting QB gets benched, no matter the reason, the conversation immediately shifts to one thing: job security. And sure enough, the questions started flying before the final whistle even blew. Now, before we get into the drama, let's talk about how we got here. Tua's 2025 season hasn't exactly been a highlight reel. In 7 games, he's completing about 68% of his passes. Not bad, right? But when you dig deeper, things get messy. He's thrown for 1,313 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. That's a razor-thin margin between big plays and big mistakes. And in the NFL, that kind of inconsistency will get people talking. Add in the fact that the Dolphins, as a team, have looked lost at times, struggling with execution, play calling, and discipline. And suddenly, the quarterback becomes the face of the problem. It's not entirely fair, but that's life in the NFL. When your team underperforms, the QB catches the heat first. The interesting part of all this, though, is the financial side, and that's where things get really complicated. Even if McDaniel or the Dolphins front office wanted to make a change, their hands might be tied. Remember, Tua signed a monster extension this past offseason, 4 years, up to $212 million, with a jaw-dropping $167 million guaranteed. That means his 2026 salary, a whopping $54 million, is already locked in. Guaranteed money in the NFL isn't funny money. It's real, it's binding, and it makes moving on from a player incredibly difficult. In simple terms, if Miami were to part ways with Tua, they'd be taking a financial sledgehammer to their own salary cap. So, unless something truly catastrophic happens, Tua's not going anywhere anytime soon. Whether fans like it or not, this is the Dolphins guy, at least for now. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. McDaniel himself isn't exactly standing on stable ground either. After a hot start to his coaching career, he's facing pressure from all sides. The Dolphins' offense, once a highlight machine filled with explosive plays and swagger, has sputtered. The defense, though improved on paper, hasn't been consistent enough to carry them. And that Week 7 loss to the Browns? It was bad, like alarm bells bad. Yet, according to reports, the team isn't looking to make a mid-season coaching change. McDaniel still has the locker room support, and the organization seems to believe that this rough patch can be turned around. But make no mistake, the leash is getting shorter, and the margin for error is razor-thin. Tua's relationship with McDaniel has always been a fascinating one. On the surface, it looks like a modern football love story. The creative, player-friendly coach who believes in his quarterback when the world doesn't. McDaniel's quirky, analytical approach and Tua's calm, calculated demeanor seemed like a perfect match early on. But football is a results business, and when the wins stop coming, all that chemistry starts to feel less like a bond and more like an experiment gone wrong. You can feel the tension building, not just in press conferences, but on the field. The frustration after missed throws, the sideline body language, the subtle signs that confidence is starting to crack. And then there's the off-field narrative, something that's quietly been bubbling for months. Tua's comments to the media this season haven't always landed the way he probably intended. Some fans see honesty, others see deflection. When a player starts to sound defensive or detached, that's when the media storms start brewing, and in Miami, those storms hit hard. Combine that with the weight of being the face of a franchise that's been chasing relevance for decades, and you start to understand why Tua looks like he's carrying a mountain on his shoulders. Every interception feels bigger, every press conference feels heavier, and every loss feels like it might be the one that finally tips the scales. Still, if you're looking for a silver lining, and Dolphins fans desperately need one, McDaniel's public show of support is important. It sends a message not just to the fan base, but to the locker room. We're not panicking. We're not tearing this down mid-season. Tua's our quarterback. That kind of statement can either rally a team or fall flat, depending on what happens next. If Tua responds by locking in, cleaning up the turnovers, and rediscovering that sharpness that made Miami so dangerous just a year ago, this could be the moment that defines his career. But if things keep sliding, the narrative could flip fast, from Tua's our guy to Tua's our problem. And it's not like there aren't comparisons to make. Across the league, you've got teams dealing with similar situations, talented quarterbacks struggling under big contracts, coaches defending their guys in pressers, and fan bases losing patience. But the Dolphins' situation feels especially fragile because of the expectations. Miami built this roster to win now. They've invested heavily on both sides of the ball, from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to a retooled defense meant to bring balance. They weren't supposed to be scraping by in the middle of the pack. They were supposed to be contending for the AFC crown. So when things start falling apart, everyone starts looking for someone to blame. The reality, though, is that Tua's story isn't finished yet. Remember, this is a quarterback who's battled back from major injuries, from concussions that had people questioning his future in football altogether. He's fought through adversity before, and that resilience is part of what made McDaniel believe in him to begin with. If there's one thing we've learned about Tua Tagovailoa, it's that he doesn't quit. He might be quiet, he might not be the rah-rah locker room guy, but he's steady. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what the Dolphins need right now, a little steadiness in the chaos. So where do they go from here? The path ahead isn't easy. The schedule only gets tougher, and every game from here on out will feel like a referendum on both Tua and McDaniel. Win, and the noise dies down, at least temporarily. Lose, and the volume cranks back up. That's the nature of the NFL. But this next stretch will reveal something deeper than stats or headlines. It'll show whether Tua can still command that huddle, whether McDaniel can still inspire belief, and whether this Dolphins team has the backbone to fight through adversity instead of folding under it. At the end of the day, football is as much about belief as it is about talent. Right now, Miami's trying to hang on to both. McDaniel's standing firm, saying all the right things, but the truth is that the Dolphins are standing at a crossroads. Stick with Tua, ride it out, and hope the tide turns, or start thinking about the unthinkable, what life might look like without him. For now, the answer's clear. The Dolphins are sticking with Tua Tagovailoa. But if the losses keep piling up, that confidence could evaporate faster than a South Beach rainstorm. Because in the NFL, loyalty is a beautiful thing, until the scoreboard says otherwise. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Hold on to your helmets, football fans, because the NFL world has just been turned upside down, and this one is going to be talked about for weeks. In what can only be described as a bombshell, the league has officially returned 2 wins to the Miami Dolphins, a move that instantly changes the playoff landscape and has sent shockwaves through the entire AFC. Yes, you heard that right. 2 victories that were previously wiped off the record books are now back in the Dolphins column, and the ripple effects are already being felt across locker rooms, analyst desks, and fan forums. The implications of this decision are massive, not just for Miami but for the entire playoff race, and everyone is trying to figure out exactly what this means for the teams vying for postseason glory. The Dolphins, who had been fighting an uphill battle, suddenly find themselves back in contention, and the energy around the franchise has shifted from cautious optimism to full-blown momentum. This isn't just a simple record correction. This is a seismic adjustment that alters strategies, recalibrates rankings, and throws every team in the AFC into a new state of calculation. You can almost feel the tension in the air. Coaches drawing up new plays, players realizing they've got a real shot at the playoffs, and fans flooding social media with everything from disbelief to ecstatic celebration. It's like the NFL handed Miami a second lease on life, and they are not wasting a single second to capitalize on it. Rumors are already swirling about locker room celebrations, and while no one expects champagne in the middle of practice, the mood shift is palpable. Analysts are scrambling to redo power rankings, sports talk shows are running special segments, and the narrative is clear: the Dolphins are back, and anyone who thought they were out of the hunt better think again. For weeks, Miami had been quietly grinding, facing losses, and trying to stay afloat in a season that seemed increasingly out of reach. Fans had been frustrated, players had been pushing through adversity, and the media had been questioning whether the team had what it took to make a late-season run. Now, with 2 wins reinstated, everything changes. Suddenly, the Dolphins are not just survivors, they are serious contenders. The timing couldn't be more dramatic, coming as it does in the thick of the playoff race, when every win, every point, and every turnover counts exponentially. The math that once had the Dolphins on the outside looking in has flipped, and that alone makes this story irresistible. People are speculating how this might affect not only Miami's strategy, but also the strategies of every team that has had their eyes on the playoffs. Are other teams going to adjust their game plans knowing Miami has regained 2 victories? Will coaches approach matchups differently? These questions are being debated in real time, and the tension is unlike anything we've seen in the NFL this season. Rumors are suggesting that team morale has surged dramatically, that the locker room is buzzing with renewed energy, and that players are treating practice with a new sense of urgency, almost as if the reinstated wins were a literal injection of adrenaline into the squad. The Dolphins' quarterback, the linemen, and even the special teams players are reportedly feeding off this energy, and insiders say that the vibe around the team is electric. Of course, the league's decision did not come out of nowhere. Speculation has been rampant about certain officiating controversies, disputed calls, and procedural errors that may have originally led to the removal of these wins. But the official ruling now puts those issues to rest, at least in terms of the record books, and shifts the conversation to performance on the field and what it truly means to fight back in the playoffs. Every commentator, analyst, and sports influencer is dissecting the announcement, and social media is ablaze with reactions. Some fans are incredulous, questioning why the league made this decision now, while others are celebrating as if their team just clinched a spot in the postseason. The Dolphins' social media presence has exploded, trending nationally as supporters share videos, memes, and highlights with renewed excitement. The narrative is clear: Miami is back in the hunt, and the team is going to ride this momentum straight into November and December with one goal in mind: the playoffs. The psychology of sports is fascinating here because a small change like this, 2 wins reinstated, can completely alter confidence levels, teamwork dynamics, and even individual performance. Coaches are reportedly holding extra meetings, reviewing game tape with a heightened sense of purpose, and ensuring that no opportunity is wasted. Rumors indicate that veteran players are stepping up as mentors, helping younger teammates harness this energy, and that the overall synergy of the team has been supercharged. What makes this story even more captivating is the domino effect it has on the wider league. Teams that were counting on Miami being out of contention now have to reconsider. Every game from here on out carries even more weight, and analysts are predicting some late-season clashes could become playoff previews, given the new standings. Imagine the pressure on teams like Buffalo, New England, and the Jets, who suddenly face a Dolphins squad with renewed legitimacy. Coaches are reportedly revisiting playbooks, recalculating odds, and preparing for scenarios that were previously dismissed. The Dolphins' path to the postseason is not easy, but now, at least, it is real and achievable. And if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that a team with momentum, confidence, and a sense of destiny can do extraordinary things. The narrative practically writes itself, from underdogs struggling to make a mark to resurgent contenders with everything to fight for. On the fan side, the response has been nothing short of wild. Tailgates, fan clubs, and online communities are buzzing, with speculation, memes, and debates taking center stage. Some fans are already projecting deep playoff runs, daring to dream of the Dolphins shocking the league. Others are meticulously analyzing every remaining matchup, calculating permutations, and debating strategies like amateur coaches. The energy is infectious, and the league's decision has created a sense of unity among supporters who had endured a season of uncertainty. Across Miami, sports bars are reportedly preparing for packed viewing nights. Merchandise sales are climbing, and the city itself seems to be caught in a wave of anticipation. There's a tangible excitement that permeates the atmosphere, a feeling that something big is just around the corner. Even insiders are hinting at potential ripple effects beyond the field. Trades, player morale, contract negotiations, and even coaching decisions could be influenced by this sudden shift in momentum. Teams looking to make a splash before the deadline might now reconsider their strategies, knowing the Dolphins are back with a vengeance. Rumors suggest that agents are discussing new leverage points, that scouts are watching the Dolphins with fresh interest, and that everyone from stadium staff to sports journalists is adjusting to this new reality. The Dolphins, once quietly persevering, are now the focal point of the AFC, and that alone makes this story unforgettable. The sense of drama is amplified by timing. Late-season surges are thrilling, and nothing captures the imagination of fans and media like a team that gets a second chance and makes the most of it. The Dolphins, having had victories reinstated, now face the challenge of proving that this isn't just a statistical fluke or a lucky break. They have to show up on the field, execute plays, and maintain consistency. But from every account, both on and off the field, the energy is palpable. Players are reportedly more focused, training sessions are more intense, and the competitive fire has been reignited. Every practice, every huddle, and every play is charged with urgency, with the knowledge that the playoffs are within reach. Rumors continue to swirl about internal celebrations, secret meetings, and strategic overhauls. Analysts are speculating about how this might influence draft positions, coaching decisions, and even fan engagement strategies. Sports podcasts, YouTube channels, and Twitter feeds are exploding with theories and debates, and the Dolphins have suddenly become the team everyone is talking about. The narrative of resilience, second chances, and fighting against the odds has a universal appeal, and Miami embodies it perfectly in this moment. The question now is simple yet loaded with tension. Can they convert this unexpected lifeline into a real playoff berth? Can the team harness the momentum, stay disciplined, and execute at the highest level? As the weeks unfold, one thing is certain. The Dolphins are no longer just a team to watch. They are a team to fear. The league's decision to return 2 victories is more than a correction in the standings. It's a narrative reset, a chance for redemption, and a spark that could ignite one of the most dramatic playoff runs in recent memory. Fans, analysts, and players alike are holding their breath, watching, and waiting to see if Miami can seize this moment and turn rumor into reality. Every snap, every touchdown, and every defensive stop now carries an added weight, an extra layer of drama that makes following this team impossible to ignore. The Dolphins have been handed a gift, a rare opportunity, and the entire NFL is watching to see if they can rise to the occasion. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.